This is The Happiness Blueprint,
the podcast where we uncover how people build happier lives.
Awesome. Welcome back to Happiness Blueprint, friends. I'm here with Michelle. Michelle, you are drawing for the conference today. You're helping people understand the keynote presentations through imagery. Can you help me understand exactly how you're doing this, how you got into this? Set the scene for me.
Yeah,
About
absolutely.
What you're working on.
So when I was a kid in school, I couldn't pay attention.
Yes.
I had to draw everything when I was in school. And so I don't have any art background. I started working at a consulting firm after I graduated when I was during college and then after. And I found that there were a lot more people that were like me, right? That could remember things easier and they could see it in pictures. And so I worked at a consulting firm. And then when that company got bought out by a larger consulting firm, I opened my own consulting firm. It's been about 30 years.
Incredible.
I still do consulting and training and mostly strategic business strategy with companies all over the world. And, but I draw everything. And so one of the things I do is graphic recording at Keynotes.
I'm fascinated by so many pieces of this. And the one I want to start with taking the leap into the drawing.
Yeah.
It seems like a really brave step. And I think so much what we do with events, so much what we do at NACA is really encouraging people, empowering people to take chances on their events and be ambitious at it. And that's a scary thing to venture out. And I feel like going from a secure consulting firm to I'm going to draw for conferences is a massive leap. What was that leap like? How did you kind of ease your way into it? How did you make yourself comfortable through that process?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? It felt natural, like a natural thing for me. I'd always taken notes small. And then I met a woman and she said, if you draw this up on flip charts, it would help everyone see, how you're processing and what the key ideas are. And because I have a business background, I listen in a different way. I listen for what those key points and those nuggets are. And
not what words you're saying, but what am I hearing? What are you intending? Yeah. What
exactly.
are you reading between the lines?
Exactly. It may not be the whole, the whole speech, but it'll be like the nuggets and the chunk and the most important pieces. And so I don't know how to draw. I taught myself how to draw. I don't really care what it looks like. I care about the words and kind of getting across the essence. That's really, And you know what? I've drawn since I was a kid, so it really wasn't a big leap for me to do that.
Yeah. There's something powerful in like the cross-pollination of it, where I think I grew up as an athlete, and I think sometimes people who are focused only on the camera side of it get stuck in only focusing on the camera side of it. And as an athlete, it kind of gave this perspective of like, we are practicing, we're playing the game, and the game doesn't have to be the perfect performance. It has to be good enough to beat the other team. And of course, here it has to be good enough to deliver the message I'm trying to convey. And that can be different than the perfect cinematic Hollywood film, because that's not realistic in the event space here. It sounds like drawing through is a similar thing of maybe you have an advantage over an art major because you're not worried about perfect composition and color theory. You're worried about communicating a message. And that is what really matters here in this context.
That's a perfect analogy, Peter. Absolutely perfect. Because, there is an art in perfection, which is really sexy in some places, and then nobody else cares about it anywhere else, right? And so my most important job is getting across the ideas of the speaker or in the meeting. And so today, my biggest goal is to Bobby is to kind of take everything he's saying and make just it come to life in pictures and words. So that people will remember when they look at this map.
Help me understand some of the first times you were on stage where it seems like Bobby's up there getting ready to deliver an incredible keynote. I know you mentioned in our previous conversation that you've worked with some pretty big names, established folks. It seems like it would be really intimidating to go up there with your pictures and try to feel like you belong up there. Like, was that ever a challenging transition for you to feel like you were a part of it and not, lesser than or something than other people on stage?
You know what? I think so. I grew up in New York City. I'm a New Yorker. So I kind of have this inbred badassedness about me. And I just feel like, there's only a certain number of things you can be really good at. And I'm really good at this. And I'm really good at getting, taking people's words and putting them in pictures. So I just walk in there like I belong there. And and I have worked with, I've graphic recorded for Bill Clinton, for Jane Goodall, for the Dalai Lama. I mean, some amazing people. And all I'm thinking about is how can I best honor these people? And it's a real gift to be able to do that. But I don't get intimidated. They're just people, just like me.
That seems like a New Yorker thing.
Yeah, it's very New York.
Intimidation there. But it is incredible. And I think, it's such a powerful gift to be able to work with such high-level people and kind of help everyone understand that message. Because you're right, that words are something for a lot of people, but some people it's not going to quite resonate with here.
Right, exactly.
Have you found that your art style has like evolved as you've worked on these projects here? Like what's changed from Michelle early on her graphic recording to where you are currently?
Oh my God. If I look back at my drawings back in like the early 90s, I want to throw up looking at, my people had like, they were like stubby looking. And now there's more of I wouldn't even say a sophistication, but there's a flow. And I don't like to know what the speaker's going to say ahead of time. I want to just jump in and see where the conversation goes and see where the speech goes. And that kind of is a challenge, a fun challenge for me, is to wonder where it's, where the trail is, where the journey is going to take us in the conversation. And so that has become a lot more precise for me, is that I know it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And so I'm looking for those pieces, and I'm also, being aware of time and knowing what kind of space I have. So that's I've gotten a lot better at perfecting that.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were drawing a lot as a kid, so it sounds like it's like an innate part of your soul. Has doing it professionally affected your ability to just draw at home? Like, do you still paint for fun or draw for fun? Is there still like a recreational side to it, or has it become purely a business practice?
What's funny? I don't do a lot of that anymore as recreation. However, both of my kids' rooms, I have a 22-year-old and a 14-year-old. Their rooms are beautiful. My 22-year-old was into Legend of Zelda. He's a gamer, right? And so I painted his whole room as, Hyrule, the kingdom, right? Yeah. And so I painted his whole entire room. And so my daughter's the same thing. Her room, we repainted every couple of years. Am I a good painter? No. But is it cool to have a mom that can do that? Nobody really knows what I do, for my kids. They just know I can make really cool signs if they need them. But it
would be hard for an 8-year-old to comprehend exactly. Yeah. Like a conference already, it's kind of hard abstraction for them to grasp. But
yeah, they don't really care. But I get to come home and they learn from me. I say, you are not going to believe the speaker that I got to record for. So here, look at this map I did, and let me tell you what this person did. It was amazing, and this is what they've been doing. I've heard some of the most amazing speakers, even here at NACA. Oh my God! And I want them to experience that with me, so they know I have a cool job. Neither of them have ever seen me do it, but they know that I can do whatever. If they say to me, "Hey, can you draw a chicken with holding a $5 bill?" I got your back.
Yep, it's funny. I joke sometimes that I get to use my powers for good. Where I joke that the camera, of course, I hope I'm doing good things with it. But once in a while, I get a family project here. I get to work on something that sounds similar to the kids thing. It's nice to be able to use these kind of recreational and have this like just unique, super niche skill that once in a while gets called up, and you can really make someone very happy with the skill set that they probably didn't know you possessed here.
Exactly. All my friends get hand-drawn birthday cards and congratulations cards, and I always keep pens on me when I'm in the airport because there's always some kind of screaming kid, and I'm like, "Hey, come on over here." I sit on the floor and I'm like, "What's your favorite animal?" And they're like, "A dinosaur." And so I draw a dinosaur, and then I draw the dinosaur eating the kid, and they think that's hilarious, and they forget what they were talking about. They're not upset anymore.
That's incredible. Yes, I'm also fascinated by the front row seat aspect to this, and this is something that I've really enjoyed as a concert or working in concerts. Is I get to be front row in front of the barricade with the artist, which makes it a very intimate performance where I get to see the music, but also get to see how they interact with the people around them and their team. And I think for you working with, the names you mentioned as well, it must be an extra eye-opening thing of not just learning what they intend to communicate, but I think of someone like Jane Goodall must be an angel behind the scenes, or that would be my perception of her. And
absolutely,
seeing that kind of grace in person, I feel like would be an inspirational lesson that transcends what she thinks she can communicate, and just seeing her talk to the sound guy with the utmost respect and confidence would be like an eye-opening respect thing. Has that been a valuable part of this, having that front row seat?
1,000%. One of the things I like to do, which I did with you and Zach and Bobby prior, is I like to just get on a Zoom call so we can see each other and kind of feel the vibe out, and that kind of what my intent is, and I can get some idea about who you guys are and who Bobby is and kind of the energy he's going to put out, so that I walk in feeling really prepared and really excited. And it's the same thing with these speakers. I've only met one person ever who was not very nice.
Sure. They do exist, unfortunately. Yes, I don't hold your feet to the fire for it.
But everyone else is, it's like be kind to your waiter or waitress, right? When I met Jane Goodall, I was in Costa Rica at a conference, and she held my hands, and she said, I told her what I was doing, and all she wanted to know about was me. And, here's this amazing person who's done these amazing things, and she's an incredible speaker. And actually what she talked about was something that I never expected. So I was really glad I didn't, that I don't prepare ahead of time. So there's in watching people just interact with, on an everyday basis, I think that's why I'm so comfortable with speakers and famous people. You know what they're everybody else. Yes. They're just like everybody else.
Yes, we can hear the announcement, so I'll pause for 1 second here. The part of this that I would like to know more about as well is you mentioned, I know you do a lot of like networking, connecting people. Yeah. And it sounds powerful that you're like empowering other people to find the happiness that you found, where it sounds like this graphic recording has been really fulfilling for you. It's been an experience to like figure out exactly who Michelle wants to be. It's not a job that probably existed before you, right? I can't imagine there's a ton of these in the people in the world. And it's really beautiful that you've like found your niche and carved it out. And by all the networking, connecting people, it sounds like you're empowering other people to find the same happiness journey you found. Is that like a rewarding, fulfilling part of this to you? Is now you can connect all these people and help share that happiness?
It's one of the best things. It's literally one of the best things. I love people. I'm the person, I get in an Uber and I hear their story and I hug them, and I have friends all over the world because I love hearing people's stories. And one of the best things, look, I can't bake, I can't dance, I don't sing, like, not at all. But one of the things I do is I can connect people, and like I can help them see something inside of themselves that maybe they didn't see before. And that is what I'm here for. That's part of what I'm here for. And so I'm always thinking about, like when I was on the phone with you and Bobby, I'm like, oh my gosh, my friend Donna, who is this amazing keynote speaker in Australia, you guys have to meet her because XYZ, and there's such a good connection there. And I'm always thinking about that, and it's really important for me to do that. I do a lot of executive coaching, and I can tell you a story of an executive at a very large Fortune 100 company that I coached for 3 years. And then one day during our regular call, our regular Zoom call, he said to me, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, okay, well, you know what? Then I'm going to help you figure out what you do want to do. And he wanted to move to the Caribbean with his wife and start a snorkeling business. He wanted to buy a boat, start a snorkeling business. And I said, that's fantastic. Now let's figure out how to make money doing it. And so he has an incredibly successful snorkeling business in St. Croix, where he takes out business executives and then can talk about analogies on the water, and as from the perspective of a business strategist, right? And someone who's run organizations. It's, most people don't think of those kinds of things, but I'm always thinking about how do you get to do the things you love to do and have a real connection with it.
This episode of the Happiness Blueprint podcast is brought to you by Vibarks. Goals, budgets, and KPIs can tell you what happened, but they don't tell you how people felt while doing the work. Happiness is the most important metric of all, and it needs a system. Vibarks is that system for prioritizing your mental health and tracking emotional metrics for individuals, teams, and even projects. Users submit a weekly 2-minute check-in online or in the app for metrics like happiness, stress, and utilization. Then, Vibarks processes that data into quantified metrics that help spot patterns, celebrate wins, and encourage support where needed. Personally, I loved using Vibarks with my team at GBM6. It felt like such a great way to check in with myself and make sure I'm hitting both my professional and my personal goals. I especially love that it asks me for 3 things that I'm happy about every week. During busy season, I find that things can feel a little chaotic and stressful, so this has felt like a really great tool to reframe my focus and make sure I'm aware of how many great things are happening around me, even in the most stressful moments. Vibarks is free forever for individuals, .edu teams, and .org teams. All other organizations can start with a 60-day free trial and then pay just $5 per user per month to build a healthier, happier, and more engaged workplace. Check out the link in our description to get started on your own journey towards a happier personal and professional life. Thank you to Vibarks for sponsoring today's episode. All right, back to the show. It's funny, as you were telling the story, I always go back to being a kid with my dad. My parents are both academics. So when I was in school and I was complaining about homework and my teachers and all this, they would always be very clear of like, you're not learning how to do math, you're learning how to learn. And once you figure out one thing, you can do anything. And as a kid, that was probably such a cop-out to me. And then as I get older, it's like, turns out it's true. Turning out learning math does help me with camera stuff. And it's not that I'm using calculus every day, but learning how to go through the minutiae of the processes does translate. And with your Fortune 100 client, it sounds like a similar thing of like whatever they were doing in the corporate world is maybe different than the scuba diving business, or snorkeling, sorry, I forget. But it does translate. And once you can get good at one thing, once you master one thing, it is so much, the world opens up in terms of opportunity here.
Absolutely.
And it's a really empowering thing for me to grasp of like, the world is still my oyster. And I think this is what I would like to do, but who knows what 10 years has for me. And I feel confident that I can now explore that. And that feels like such a valuable gift for you to be able to provide this person who had that skill set, didn't know they had it. They didn't realize they hadn't had their parents in their ear telling them that math was teaching them how to learn at that time. So it's beautiful you're able to empower that journey.
And I mean, it's, I think it's easier for me from the outside looking in, talking to someone, I can say, oh my gosh, you are so good at these things. And rather than you finding those things in yourself, it's very easy for me to see and pull out and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And, and then kind of set them on their way, and it's really interesting to do it for corporate executives because every corporate executive that I have coached has gone on to, get higher positions inside the organization, go on to be I encourage them to be boards of directors after they retire. So, it's using something that they already have inside of them that's really important and that they love, but just kind of blowing it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. One challenge we often see is this idea that I think you're alluding to, like meeting people where they're at and speaking a language that communicates with them. So some people need a little more love, some people need a little more tough love, and there's a balance here. It sounds like you've done a great job of identifying that. For folks who are leading a team and having trouble figuring out how to speak each person's language, what advice would you have for them for communicating to people in the way that they need to be spoken to and kind of understanding who needs a nudge when and who just needs some space to go through some stumbles to correct themselves?
I teach a lot of workshops around leadership skills and around, really getting to the heart of leaderful behaviors. Like who do I want to be and how do I want to communicate with people? And one of the things I tell people is you only have 3 things on the planet you can be in control of. 1 is what you say, the words that come out of your mouth. 2 is what you do, your actions. And 3, and maybe the most important one, is how you react to what happens to you. And I find that when I go in and talk to someone, I am looking for a very level playing field with them. Like, I want to know who they are. I'm not digging for any particular reason. I'm saying, you know what, Peter, that's really interesting that your parents were academics and then you were athletic. And, I just want to know more about it. And so I think if you ask more questions and then shut up and listen to what people have to say, that they're much more willing to be vulnerable and give you some information about them that you go, oh my gosh, have you ever thought about, you're really good at. Another thing that is incredibly, incredibly important to me is if I think a compliment in my head, I have to say it out loud. I don't care where it is, what it is. It's in the airport. It's a woman wearing a necklace. It's someone who just talked and they were really brave about what they said. I always say it. I say, you know what? I really enjoyed talking to you because you did this, this, and this, and it really helped me.
That's a beautiful habit. I think we could all, use to put a little more positivity out in the universe where I think we are pretty divided and it's a tough time to approach strangers, right? I think as we all have our cell phones, we all have our little ecosystems that we're always living in. That's a beautiful way to break down some of those walls and help people feel the community that I think ultimately fosters happiness, right?
Yes.
Happiness and community go really hand in hand here. It's hard to have one without the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to just talk to you about, since this is the happiness podcast, is I have a very active life. I am on planes all the time. I'm flying places. I have a mom in New York who has Alzheimer's that I fly back and forth to see her. And I've learned some really important lessons over the years. And while I can't be happy all the time, what I can do is I look for moments of joy. And I found that moments of joy can fill me up. And those moments of joy are, with my mom, with my mom that has Alzheimer's. I talked to her yesterday and she said, I had the best day. I won 50 cents at bingo.
That's beautiful.
And I had crazy stuff happened. But I just sat in that, and she was so happy. And, it's just those little things. It's where my daughter will, pull me aside and she'll go, Mom, that's the boy I have a crush on. And that moment I get to have with her just fills me up. And so instead of striving for happy all the time, I look for those moments of joy, and I take them and I love on them and I kiss them and I bathe with them and then I stick them in my backpack.
Yep. That's such an important thing. I think, quantifying those happy moments and keeping track of them is so important here, where it's so easy to get lost in all the noise and the complexities of it. It's funny, I almost find myself doing the opposite, where instead of grabbing the happy, I try to remember the bad moments of I don't want to bathe in that, but as I go back to that and compare today to that, it's like, today I'm stressed, today I'm tired, today I'm hungry, today I'm whatever. I'm a whole lot better than I was at this point in my life a year ago, 10 years ago, whatever that time is.
That's a great thing to do.
It's
a compare, because then you're really taking an honest look at how different you are, right? And how much better and how much you've grown.
Yes. I've become very big on journaling and trying to document things, because it's so easy to forget the progress we make and where we were. And I think our rosy retrospection is a psychology term that I always like, of we tend to look at the past better than it actually was. We forget some of the rough edges and just go, oh, it couldn't have been that bad. Here's this great time that I was having, and we remember some of the highs, and the lows certainly are there, but we forget maybe the minutia between it all.
Yeah.
And I think trying to document time so I can open the page and just do a random day and go, yeah, things were tougher then than they are now. And I think that perspective really helps keep me grounded and try to, keep things flowing in the right direction.
Yeah. And you know what, Peter, you've already lived through your worst days in your life. I mean, you've already survived them. So you've lived through them already, and you came out the other side. Whatever's coming in the future was coming, but you already made it through all that stuff. So you already know that you're resilient. And that's, I think, something I have to remind myself of. It's like, oh, yeah, that really sucked. I went through a bad divorce, and it's like, yep, but that happened. But now I am a different person.
Yep.
And so it gives you a little bit more perspective, and you feel better, more resilient,
And on the entry side of that, you would never believe you could have gone through that. And now you've gone through it, and you go, turns out I'm here. And maybe there's some scar tissue, there's some challenges, and that's normal. That's life, right? That's residual. But it gives me the confidence of there's something coming inevitably at some point in my life that I don't think I can handle. I don't know what that is, and I don't really want to know what it is. I'd love to believe in the optimistic, perfect universe that probably isn't real, euphoric universe here. That isn't really realistic. But there is the confidence of I didn't think I'd get through that. I found a way. And there is another hurdle coming that might fit the same bill, and I will be on the other side of it okay. And I might be changed, I might be different, but it'll work out.
And I also learned so much from other people. That's one of the reasons I love talking to other people.
Yeah.
Is I was on the phone with a financial planner for my mom the other day, and she said something, that I wouldn't even have thought of. And she said, oh, if you're going to move your mom out there, I have a copy of her license, and her license is going to expire in May. And I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't even have thought of that. But the more you create relationship with people, the more they are willing to reach out and help you and give you things, give you gifts that you didn't even know that you needed. And that, to me, again, it's a moment of joy.
Yes.
It's a moment of joy.
Moments of joy are sometimes few and far between, but I think it's so important that we can hold on to them. And there is, plenty of joy to go around, as you mentioned here. One thing we like to wrap up on here is what is something that makes you happy? So there are so many things to be happy about in this world, and we touched on some of the things you're proud of here. What's something outside of work, outside of the spectrum we've talked about here? Is there a favorite hobby? I know you love drawing, painting for your kids' rooms. Is there a niche? You mentioned, not cooking or singing or art. What's something that makes you happy outside of the things we've talked about?
I kind of cut a lot of things out, right? Cooking, I'm not good at cooking or singing or dancing.
I bet you're better than to give yourself credit for.
Oh, no, Peter. That's all the truth. One of my favorite things is, over the many years that I have had a global consulting practice, I've made friends all over the world.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is to meet them in another country and have a vacation with them. 6 days, 10 days, 4 days. If I'm working in another country and someone, I call my friend Christina in Denmark, and she flies there. And just recently I had a wonderful vacation in the south of Spain with my best friend, who's an executive at a company in New York City, and my friend Christina. And I got to have them together. So it was really, those are the things that bring me just an incredible happiness. And, my happiness is changing over the years, right?
Yeah, as it does.
It changes, right? What makes me happy. And I think a lot of it has to do with watching my children grow and having them be happy. That makes me happy too.
Definitely. I think it's a beautiful way to like make the world smaller. I think by having your friends with you in the different countries and places and continents even, I guess.
Yes.
It sounds like a really beautiful way to explore the world and get to see it all and kind of see it on your terms in a way that makes sense to you.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with us here. I want to make sure you have time to plug your consulting firm here and the graphic drawing. Is there any way that people can contact you if they're interested in working with you on all the various things you're great at?
Yeah, absolutely. I suck at social media. I'm trying to get better to remember to do that. I'm just so busy. Yeah. But the best place to look for the most practical stuff is on my Instagram.
Awesome.
And it's at Boost Stone. B as in boy, OOS as in Sam, STONE. And that's where I post most of the stuff when I post. I'm just a bad poster.
It's okay. You've got a lot on your plate, it sounds like. It sounds like you're crushing a lot of other things. So social media is where you fall flat.
Yeah, exactly. I need a little help with that. But I'm doing so many cool things that's where I post the most interesting stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming to chat with us. And we'll see you later for the keynote today.
Sounds great, Peter.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Happiness Blueprint.
Powered by GBM6. It's about making people happy.